Paola. Paola is the witch of rubber, and her nature is rebounding. That basically means she bounces a lot, like a big rubber ball. Her barrier is this endless ocean, like you're stuck in a giant beach that never ends. But Paola can't swim, at all. So even though her whole world is made of water, she spends most of her time hanging onto her minions so she doesn't drown. She's supposed to be able to launch high-speed body slams by bouncing around, but she's too busy clinging to her helpers to even try. When it's not beach season, she just straight up hibernates. Her minions, called Bona, are floaty little creatures made to keep her from sinking. They glide over the water like pond skaters and shoot beach balls that mess with gravity. If you get hit, you might flip upside down and end up drowning in the ocean. And since they're full of air, they're scared of sharp stuff that could pop them. They often disguise themselves as those inflatable swim rings, which makes them even more dangerous. People don't realize what they are until it's too late. Patricia. Patricia is called the class representative witch, and her whole theme is based around school and isolation. Her main thing is being a bystander. She doesn't go out of her way to attack unless someone messes with her routine. In her barrier, which looks like a school floating in the sky made out of spider-like threads, she acts out the same boring school day over and over, completely alone. She literally vomits thread to build this place. Her barrier is filled with things like clotheslines, desks, and eerie school items, all arranged in this weird, endless space that's supposed to reflect how she saw school life. Dull, repetitive, and kind of hopeless. Patricia used to be a serious, quiet girl who didn't really stand out, and that shows in everything about her. She created a school for herself because that's the only thing she knew. Even her minions, called Mathieu, are like weird classmates, only they're just legs wearing skates, sliding along the threads. They have no upper bodies and are just puppets being controlled by Patricia's webs. Their shirts hang on lines like unused laundry. These minions don't have minds of their own. They just fill in roles as background characters in her fake student life. She first appears in episode 10 of the anime during one of the timelines where Mami, Homura, and Madoka fight her. Homura finishes her off by stopping time and tossing a pipe bomb under her skirt. She also shows up in Magia Record, The Rebellion Story, and Magia Etc., where her barrier design keeps evolving. It starts including mechanical arms growing from utility poles, storm clouds, and floating school shirts. The anime version of her even shows her lowering herself using her web and catching people in it. Quitterie. Quitterie is called the Needle Witch, and her whole thing is about respect. She used to be a magical girl who gave up everything to try and save the universe. Even after becoming a witch, she still believes she's doing just that, fighting for the universe. She wears a costume that looks like Kyuubi, and even her minions are dressed up like super cute plush Kyuubis. They're so adorable, it's said you wouldn't even be able to attack them. They were literally designed to be too cute to hurt. Her barrier, where you fight her, is just a plain grassy field. She doesn't drop a grief seed either, which is kinda weird for a witch fight. Quitterie only appears in one place, floor 49 of the Oblivious Barrier. You won't find her in the main story, so she's pretty easy to miss. But there's a lot going on with her design. Her jacket has a galaxy pattern, tying into the whole saving the universe thing, and a QB head sits on top, pushing the idea that she still sees herself as a hero, not a monster. Raspberry. Raspberry shows up briefly in a flashback where she fights Yachio Nanami's team, and interestingly, she actually manages to escape, which isn't something a lot of witches pull off. Raspberry is called the Critic Witch, and her personality is about authority and judgment. She sees herself as someone who decides what has value and what doesn't. If something or someone doesn't meet her standards, she'll stab it with a giant stake. If she sees something as valuable, she gives it a flower, but that almost never happens. She's pretty much the only one who ever gets the flower, which says a lot about how high her standards are, or how biased she is. Her labyrinth is also really unique. It glows with lights that come from the people and things she's already crushed with those stakes. It's a weird mix of pretty and creepy. Her rules for judging value aren't clear at all, so she basically acts like she's always right, even though there's no logic behind it. It's all based on her own messed up views. Her minions are called Razzies, and they don't care about any of the value stuff their witch talks about. They're tiny, flea-like creatures with big pincer mouths, and they just love attacking whatever she says is worthless. They don't have a sense of judgment, they just want to bite things. Once Raspberry marks a target as useless, these things swarm all over it without hesitation. Rebecca. Rebecca is the sheep witch, and her main thing is fear. She's terrified of basically everything. Her nature is insomnia, and it makes sense when you realize she literally never sleeps. She has so many eyes from being paranoid all the time, and not once do they all close at the same time. She's stuck in her own little fenced-in area inside her labyrinth and has never stepped outside of it, and she never will. She doesn't even act like the one in charge. Instead, she sees herself as a pet to her familiars, just waiting around for them to bring her humans to eat. Rebecca looks harmless and shy at first because she's always scared, but that changes fast if one of her familiars gets taken down. The second that happens, she completely loses control and starts rampaging. That's the only time she ever acts aggressively. Until then, she just hides inside her fence, too afraid to do anything on her own. Her familiars are called Josephs, and they see themselves as her shepherds. There are a lot of them, and their job is to take care of her. Most of the time, they're just walking around doing nothing, unless a human enters the labyrinth. Then they blow the horns around their necks to call the others and start hunting. Rebecca first appears in episode 2 of the anime, where she traps a bunch of bus passengers in her labyrinth. Iroha goes in to save them and runs into Rena, Kaede, and Momoko. Reina takes down some Josephs, and Momoko supposedly defeats Rebecca, but then Rebecca jumps out and attacks Iroha and Kaede, so clearly she wasn't finished off. After that, her fate is left hanging. Nobody really knows what happened to her. Roberta is known as the birdcage witch, and her main personality trait is rage. She's literally locked up in a birdcage, stomping her feet non-stop, totally furious at anyone who ignores her. Her whole vibe screams anger and frustration. Roberta's also got a strange love for alcohol, which shows up a lot in the details of her barrier. Her minions are called goths. These guys are basically dumb, bird-like men who swarm around her like desperate fans trying to impress her, but she absolutely hates them. They're useless, annoying, and super easy to burn. Roberta doesn't really last long in the anime. Homura kills her quickly by pausing time and shooting her with a machine gun. That's about it for her screen time in the main show. Shitori Egumo. Shitori Egumo, also known as Embryo Eve, is the witch form of Ui Tamaki. She begins as a half-witch, growing inside a force field, kind of like a giant womb. This thing feeds on all the emotions from people around it, especially the dark energy that comes from magical girls when they turn into witches. It even absorbs the impurities from their soul gems. To keep all this crazy power from going out of control, it stabilizes itself by spreading gems throughout its body. Once it fully matures, it goes full monster mode. Its goal is to devour energy, destroy the planet, and keep feeding until it becomes one big chunk of the universe. Shitori Egumo has 2 forms. Her first form is the Happy Witch, which is ironic because her actual nature is suffering. Her second form is the Witch of Happiness, but nothing about it is happy either. After she loses something important, clearly referring to Ui's separation from her body, she starts shaking the earth in rage, trying to fill that emotional hole. She won't stop unless she gets that specific girl back. But here's the scary part. If the force field keeping her stable breaks, she dissolves into the air, and no one knows what kind of damage her scattered impurity could cause. Her minions are unnamed little swallow-like creatures that fly around Kamihama. They don't care about regular humans, only magical girls and other witches. These things steal magic, memories, emotions, and even visions to offer to their witch. They have anchor-shaped legs to trap their prey. Later on, they're revealed to be called Oscars, and their main job is to present offerings to Shitori. When enough of them gather, they cause a tornado that builds a nest where they prepare the energy they've collected. Even after they lose their master, they keep going. Slave of Anima. Slave of Anima is called the Witch of Meat Grillers, and her whole existence revolves around one thing: labor. She's shaped like a dog and works non-stop, turning a giant wheel that powers a grill to cook meat. She's been doing it so long that she doesn't even remember why. She just works until she dies from exhaustion. And when that happens, one of her minions is picked to take her place, keeping the cycle going endlessly. Her minions are just as stuck. They're basically her underpaid kitchen crew, serving the grilled meat and washing plates. But there aren't any customers, so they end up secretly throwing the meat away. And even though the job sucks, they still think it's better than becoming the next witch themselves. That should tell you how brutal it is to be the one at the wheel. Suleika. Suleika is known as the Dark Witch, and her whole thing is being obsessed with darkness. The darker it is around her, the more powerful she becomes. If she's in total darkness, she's almost unstoppable. But because the modern world is full of lights, even something as small as a lamppost or the moon can seriously weaken her. So, despite having all this power, she's not that dangerous most of the time anymore. Her nature is described as delusional, which lines up with her backstory. She's the remains of a girl who didn't want to wake up from her dreams and found comfort only in the dark. She's been running from daylight ever since. While Suleika herself didn't show up in the original anime, her minion Ulla did. Ulla pops up right at the start of episode 3 and is quickly taken out by Mami with her signature move, Tiro Finale. Ulla is super important to Suleika because she's the one who acts out the witch's dreams in the dark. She can shapeshift into anything to show what Suleika wants, and she's insanely strong in pitch black environments. But just like Suleika, even the tiniest bit of light can cut her power in half. Urman. Urman is the witch form of Inui Itsumi, and while she never showed up directly in the original anime, her minions, the Bartels, did appear briefly in episode 8 when Sayaka was breaking down emotionally. Urman finally made her proper debut in the Madoka Magica manga, and later showed up in Magia Record and Magia Etc., where we got to learn more about her personality and backstory. Urman is known as the Canine Witch, and her whole deal is craving love, so much so that she turned into a dog because she believed people would love her more that way. It's kind of heartbreaking, Anyone who walks into her barrier or labyrinth starts to feel a strong sense of affection toward her, almost like they're being forced to care. But the only way to actually defeat her is to fake love back at her. That's the only thing that works. Her minions, the Bartels, are just mannequins that spin around in place. They don't attack or do anything. They literally just spin. This detail lines up perfectly with her story. Because Urman was so unloved, she couldn't even create familiars with minds of their own. Even in the Rebellion story, the Bartels show up again, quietly spinning in Sayaka's orchestra hall without doing anything, which kinda keeps the theme going. Walpurgisnacht. Walpurgisnacht is introduced right at the start of the anime in episode 1, during Madoka's dream. At first, we don't even know what she is, just that she's massive and horrifying. Later on, we learn she's the strongest witch, unless Madoka turns into one herself. Walpurgisnacht is a fusion of countless witches, like a magical disaster that grew stronger over time. Her design is also wild. She looks like a giant doll in a fancy Renaissance-style dress with massive sleeves, ruby gems, and instead of legs, she's got a turning gear that connects to her body. Walpurgisnacht doesn't even need a labyrinth like other witches. She just shows up out in the open, and the damage she causes is huge. Homura even says she's strong enough to wipe out an entire city. Her theme is all about theater and drama. She's called the stage-constructing witch because she literally brings her own twisted show to life, with a parade of clown-like familiars that dance around like it's some horrifying carnival. These familiars might actually be the spirits of fallen magical girls. She's been part of every major timeline that Homura goes through. In the first one, she kills Madoka and Mami. In another, Madoka manages to beat her, but turns into a witch from the grief. Even with Homura's explosives and military weapons, Walpurgisnacht just keeps coming. She's that tough. It's only in episode 12 that Madoka, after finally making a wish to erase all witches before they're born, destroys Walpurgisnacht once and for all. But in doing that, Madoka also erases her own existence as a human. Zenobia. Zenobia is known as the sandbox witch, and her whole thing is about immersion. Basically, she gets super focused on building sandcastles, but she never likes what she makes. She's stuck in this never-ending cycle of building and destroying, and it's like she's forgotten what she was even trying to make in the first place. She acts like a kid, throwing tantrums if someone interrupts her. If she's deep in her castle building zone and gets disturbed, she completely loses it and goes on a rampage. That's what makes her dangerous. Her minions are called Zabai, and their job is to pretend to be toy trains. They roll around playing with each other, and as they do that, stuff from the ground sticks to them, like dirt, toys, whatever. That debris ends up getting collected by Zenobia without anyone noticing. When she starts planning a new castle, the Zabai jump in to help, but it never lasts. Since Zenobia is impossible to please, the familiars eventually get bored and wander off.